You know, when I sit down with a big fat ribeye, I'm good for hours. When I eat chicken breast, I'm usually in the fridge looking for something else way too soon. If you've noticed the same thing on carnivore, you're not alone. And it's a sign you're paying attention to biology. Today I want to unpack why ruminant meat, beef, lamb, bison, goat, tends to feel so much better for many carnivores than monogastric meats like chicken and pork, and how you can practically get more of it in your life without needing to move onto a ranch. So let's start with what's the actual difference. Ruminant versus monogastric animals. Ruminants are animals with a 4-chambered stomach. Cows, sheep, goat, bison, deer, elk, etc. Monogastrics have a single stomach. Humans like us, pigs, chickens. Why does that matter? Because a ruminant stomach is basically a living fermentation tank. Microbes in the gut pre-digest the plants the animal eats and biohydrogenate a lot of the polyunsaturated fats called PUFAs into more saturated stable fats. I particularly love this because as a carnivore, I skip the middleman, the plants, and let the ruminant animals do the work for me. The fermentation process results in meat with the following characteristics. Ruminant fat is more saturated and more stable. PUFAs, especially omega-6, stays relatively low. You also get unique fats like conjugated linoleic acid in higher amounts in ruminants like lamb and beef. By contrast, monogastric animals store the fat they're fed. If you feed pigs and chickens a diet rich in soy and corn oil, you get pork and chicken fat that can be 10 to 20% or more PUFA, especially omega-6. On carnivore, where meat and fat are your whole diet, that fat quality matters a lot more than it did when meat was just one item on your plate. So let's answer another question I hear often. Why does ribeye make you so full and chicken doesn't? Let's talk satiety. When I eat a ribeye, I'm getting protein plus plenty of fat in the same bite. That fat is mostly saturated and monounsaturated, very energy dense and slow burning. There's connective tissue, collagen, and gelatin, which slow digestion. All of that triggers hormones like CCK and peptide YY, telling the brain, we're good. Put the fork down. Skinless chicken breast, on the other hand, is basically high protein, very low fat, low calorie density. That can be great in certain contexts, but on a carnivore or low-carb pattern, lean protein by itself often doesn't turn off hunger. You digest it quickly, insulin rises a bit, but you don't get that strong I'm done signal from your gut because there isn't enough fat riding along. Many carnivores intuitively discover what the science suggests. Higher fat ruminant cuts like ribeye, chuck, short ribs, lamb shoulder tend to produce stronger, longer-lasting satiety than a plate of chicken breast, especially when carbs are low and your body is primarily burning fat. There's also a fatty acid nuance. Ruminant fats are richer in stearic acid and other saturated fats associated with increased fat oxidation and mitochondrial efficiency, at least in early mechanistic data, which may partly explain that switched on and satisfied feeling so many people report with beef and lamb versus chicken. Now let's look under the hood and talk about nutrient density. Across multiple analyses, red meat like beef, lamb, etc. tends to edge out poultry for several key nutrients per serving, especially when you look at bioavailability. Ruminant meat is typically richer in heme iron, which is crucial for energy and oxygen delivery, zinc, which is important for immune function, hormone production, and wound healing, vitamin B12, which is important for your brain, nerves, and red blood cells, creatine, important for muscle and brain energy, carnitine and carnosine, mitochondrial and antioxidant support, taurine, glutathione, coenzyme Q10, important for cellular defense and energy. Meat in general is one of the most nutrient-dense food categories we have, providing highly bioavailable protein, iron, zinc, B vitamins, and bioactive compounds. Now, chicken is still a complete protein and brings some nice niacin and B vitamins to the table. But if you ask, What's the single most efficient way to hit my nutrient targets on carnivore? Ruminant meat usually wins that contest. This is one reason many carnivore coaches will say, base your diet on ruminants. Use chicken and pork as accessories if you tolerate and enjoy them. So what about fat quality, inflammation, and metabolic health? Because ruminant fat is more saturated in monounsaturated and lower in omega-6 PUFA compared with typical grocery store pork and chicken, it's less prone to oxidation when you cook it and when it circulates in your body. Why do carnivores care? Oxidized fats can be more inflammatory. A lower omega-6 to 3 ratio, which you tend to see in grass-fed beef and lamb, may support a more favorable inflammatory profile. Ruminants also give you CLA, which is being studied for potential benefits in body composition and immune function. So when someone on carnivore says, I just feel less inflamed on beef than on chicken, there are some plausible biochemical reasons behind that experience. Okay, doc, but how do I actually get more ruminant meat? Let's get practical. Not everyone has a freezer full of grass-fed cows and roaming bison in the backyard. Here are some real-world ways to tilt your plate towards ruminants. Number 1, start with ground beef. 80-20 or 75-25 ground beef is often the most affordable entry-level ruminant. You can shape it any way you like. Burgers, crumbles, meatballs, patties with butter on top. Number 2, use everyday cuts, not just ribeye. Chuck roast, short ribs, brisket, lamb shoulder, oxtail, all high fat, high collagen, and often cheaper per pound. Slow cook them and let the collagen and fat do the magic. Number 3, look for lamb and goat in ethnic markets. Middle Eastern, Caribbean, African, Indian, and Latino grocery stores often have lamb, goat, and sometimes mutton at reasonable prices. These are all ruminants and fit beautifully into a carnivore meal plan. Number 4, bison and game meats. Bison is getting easier to find at big box stores and online meat suppliers. It's usually leaner than ribeye, so pair it with butter, tallow, or egg yolks to keep your fat up. Venison, elk, and other wild ruminants are fantastic if you have hunters in your circle. Number 5, buy it in bulk when you can. A half cow or quarter cow shares from a local farmer can dramatically lower your per pound cost once you have freezer space. You also get full spectrum, steaks, roast, ground, bones, and organs. Remember, this isn't all or nothing. If you're currently eating chicken and pork all week, just trading 1 or 2 meals a day to ruminant meat can shift your fat profile, your satiety, and your nutrient intake in a meaningful way. Is chicken or pork bad on carnivore? I don't think in good versus evil foods. I think in return on investment. Ruminant meat gives you high satiety, stable fat, and dense nutrition per bite. Chicken and pork can still be part of the picture, especially if pasture-raised and tolerated well. But I wouldn't build the foundation of a carnivore diet on lean chicken, breast, and highly omega-6 pork fat. If you're metabolically sick, inflamed, and trying to heal, I'd rather see your plate dominated by ruminants, especially at the beginning. So if you've noticed that a ribeye sticks to your ribs while chicken leaves you hunting snacks, you're not crazy and you're not weak. You're experiencing the difference between a microbially upgraded, nutrient-dense, stable fat ruminant and a bird whose fat profile mirrors the industrial feed it was given. As a carnivore-friendly obesity doc, my simple rule for patients is, when in doubt, build your plate around ruminant meat. Let everything else audition for a supporting role. And if this helps you understand why your body keeps asking for beef, tell me in the comments. Are you team ribeye, team lamb, team bison, or still team chicken trying to convert? Either way, I'm here to help you connect the mechanisms to what you feel in your body so you can stop guessing and start eating with confidence.